So 90% of startups fail.
Yeah, which is just a brutal statistic when you think about it.
It really is. But historically, I mean, if you look at the data, they didn't fail because the founder's core idea was inherently bad.
Right.
They failed because they simply ran out of money trying to build, the complex digital infrastructure required just to host the idea.
Exactly. It's like the romantic mythology of the modern startup usually features two people in a freezing garage somewhere.
Right. Soldering a motherboard.
Yeah, soldering motherboards,
Yeah.
building physical servers from scratch. But that romantic notion is just completely outdated now.
Totally. And today, we are looking at a blueprint that is actively trying to obliterate that massive barrier to entry.
It completely redefines the starting line for any new business. I mean, if you rewind even 10 years before you could even think about putting a product in the customer's hands.
Or just testing your hypothesis in the market.
Right. You had to act as a hardware engineer, a database administrator, and a software developer all at once.
Which is just impossible for most people.
It is. You were burning through hundreds of thousands of dollars just to keep the lights on and the servers humming.
Right. Which brings us exactly to our mission today. Welcome to the deep dive. We are taking this fascinating stack of source material from Google for startups and extracting the absolute essentials for you, the learner.
It's a really incredible document.
It is. We are looking at the exact blueprint and the toolkit being used right now to launch modern businesses. And this isn't just a basic list of software programs.
No, definitely not.
It's a structural breakdown of how massive tech ecosystems try to foster the next generation of industry disruptors across three critical pillars: start, build, and grow. Okay, let's unpack this.
Let's do it.
Our sources today cover the entire ecosystem Google provides to new ventures. We are talking about comprehensive overviews of their cloud programs, access to next-generation AI tools, the mentorship structures they've strategically set up.
Which is a huge part of it.
Massive. And we also have some incredibly specific startup case studies that prove this whole model actually works.
If we connect this to the bigger picture for you listening right now, whether you are, say, a prospective founder mapping out a new venture or a business strategist within a larger legacy company.
Or just insanely curious about how modern tech companies actually get off the ground.
Right, exactly. This document is essentially a window into the modern infrastructure of innovation.
Yeah.
It reveals exactly how the garage era has effectively been replaced by the ecosystem era.
The ecosystem era. I like that. It makes a lot of sense as a concept because it perfectly mirrors biological ecosystems,
Oh, absolutely.
Like, you can't survive in a vacuum. You need a surrounding environment to feed you the resources required to actually grow.
Yeah, every startup, no matter how brilliant the core idea is, needs that foundational soil.
Right. Before a founder can even begin to worry about networking or scaling up their marketing campaigns, they need the raw digital materials to actually build the product.
Which is where the tech comes in.
Exactly. In the text, we see a heavy emphasis on the Google for Startups cloud program. The document talks about offering resources to supercharge growth alongside a whole host of ecosystem perks and discounts. But let's get into the actual mechanics of what that means.
Let's dive in.
Because we hear a phrase like cloud credits, and I don't know, to me it just sounds like a digital coupon code.
Right, it sounds kind of trivial on the surface.
Yeah.
But it fundamentally alters the survival rate of a fledgling business.
Wait, really? Just having cloud credits?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
To understand why, you have to look at the actual mechanics and the costs of running a modern application.
Okay, lay it out for us.
So when you are building a digital tool, especially anything involving heavy data processing or artificial intelligence, every single time a user interacts with your app, you are paying for compute.
Okay.
That is the literal physical processing power required in a massive data center somewhere to, generate a response, fetch user data, or run a complex algorithm.
So for a startup, those API calls and server requests can add up incredibly fast.
So fast.
If your app suddenly goes viral, say, and you get 10,000 new users in a single afternoon.
Which is the dream, right?
Right, it's the dream. But your server costs might skyrocket to a point that literally bankrupts you before you can even secure your Series A funding round.
Exactly. It creates this terrifying paradox where early success can actually kill the company.
Wow.
Because the infrastructure burn rate vastly exceeds the incoming revenue.
That makes total sense.
So cloud credits essentially pause that burn rate. When a program like this gives you access to enterprise-grade cloud computing, They are subsidizing the most volatile and dangerous cost on your balance sheet.
So it buys you time.
Exactly. It gives you the financial runway to iterate, fail, fix the bugs, and pivot without the constant looming threat of insolvency hanging over your head.
It's like being handed the keys to a master workshop.
I like that analogy.
Right. Along with a massive financial grant to buy whatever lumber you need for your first year of production.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is.
Like, you aren't getting infinite free lumber forever. Eventually, you do have to build a chair that actually sells to keep the lights on.
Right, you need a real business model eventually.
But it gives you the runway to build the perfect prototype without going into crippling personal debt.
Yeah.
The barrier to entry isn't just lowered, that initial lethal friction is practically smoothed out completely.
And because of that, you're no longer constrained by the upfront cost of the raw materials or the tools. You were constrained only by your own ingenuity and your ability to find product market fit.
Which is huge. But the infrastructure is really just the foundation, right?
Oh, definitely.
The document doesn't stop at just server space and compute power.
No, it goes way beyond that.
And this is the part of the source material that really caught my eye. Right there in the update section, they highlight a specific tool that startups get access to.
Right, the AI component.
Yeah, Gemini 3.1 Pro. And the tagline they use to describe it is just 5 words, but it feels massive. Deep reasoning for complex automation.
What's fascinating here is that specific phrasing. Deep reasoning for complex automation.
It sounds so intense.
It is. We have to look at the recent evolution of artificial intelligence to understand why this is a massive operational leap for a startup.
Okay, break that down for us.
Well, for the past couple of years, the public focus has heavily been on generative AI. Models that predict the next word in a sequence to write a polite email, or models that diffuse pixels to generate an image.
Right, like the chatbots everyone has played around with.
Exactly. That is surface-level generation. Deep reasoning is an entirely different paradigm.
I read that deep reasoning phrase, and it really struck me. Because right now, most of us use AI to just draft an email or brainstorm a meeting agenda.
Which is basically just advanced autocomplete based on statistical probability.
Exactly. But this phrasing implies the AI is actually evaluating logic. So how does that practically change the day-to-day operations of a tiny, say, 3-person startup?
Deep reasoning implies that the AI can understand a multi-step problem, break it down into logical components, evaluate different pathways to solve each of those components, and then, this is the key part, autonomously execute a complex workflow from start to finish.
Wow. Autonomously.
Yes. Think of generative AI as an intern.
Okay, an intern.
An intern who can draft a letter when you tell them exactly what to say and who to send it to.
Right, very direction dependent.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Deep reasoning AI, on the other hand, acts much more like a seasoned chief of staff.
Oh, that's a great way to put it.
You can give it a broad objective, like, hey, analyze these 300 customer feedback forms, identify the core complaints, cross-reference them against our product roadmap, and draft a prioritized task list for the engineering team.
And it can just do that.
It can coordinate that entire execution, yes.
So when the text pairs deep reasoning with complex automation, they are talking about an AI that doesn't just assist with discrete, isolated tasks. It actually manages entire operational workflows. For a startup with limited headcount, I mean, that is the ultimate force multiplier.
It really is.
You don't have to hire a massive operations team to handle logistics or data analysis or customer triage right out of the gate.
No, you don't.
The AI reasons through those workflows automatically, allowing a tiny, agile team to produce an operational output that rivals a mid-sized corporation.
Precisely. It allows a founding team of 3 people to punch significantly above their weight class.
But, that introduces a whole new dynamic, doesn't it?
How so?
Well, because even if you have this incredible AI that can reason like a chief of staff, a robotic chief of staff still needs a human CEO to tell it what the market actually wants.
Right.
Having the fastest servers and the smartest automation tools won't help if you don't know who your customer is, or how to navigate complex industry regulations.
Or how to pitch to a venture capitalist.
Exactly. And that logically brings us to the second pillar of this document, the human network, the people and programs.
It's a crucial pivot in the source material. Infrastructure and AI are necessary, absolutely, but they are not sufficient for success on their own.
Right.
The document heavily emphasizes deliberate strategies to connect startups with like-minded founders, expert guidance from Google mentors, industry leaders, and potential investors.
It's all about building a strategic community around the founders.
Yeah.
But I have to admit, as I was reading through the programs section, I hit a line that made me stop and just scratch my head.
Oh, really? Which part?
I want to push back on this a bit. The source claims that selected startups in these programs receive bespoke Google support and guidance tailored to their specific goals.
Oh, great.
Now, how does a massive global technology ecosystem, a company operating on a planetary scale with billions of users, provide truly bespoke or custom-tailored guidance to a tiny niche startup?
That's a very fair critique.
Doesn't that sound like a complete contradiction? It feels like standard corporate marketing speak to me.
I get why you'd say that. When we think of massive tech companies, we inherently think of algorithms, economies of scale, one-size-fits-all solutions.
Right. A giant cannot, by definition, be artisanal.
Exactly. But if you look closely at how the document structures this support, it actually clarifies the mechanism. This is exactly why the Alumni Network and the people directories are so heavily emphasized alongside the software products.
Okay, so it's about the network.
Right. The bespoke nature doesn't come from a Google algorithm trying to automatically generate a business plan for you. It comes from targeted human mentorship.
Meaning they aren't just handing a founder a generic PDF manual that says, top 10 ways to grow your startup.
No.
They're leveraging their scale to find the needle in the haystack.
That's exactly the mechanism. They're acting as a hyper-targeted matchmaker.
Give me an example of how that looks.
Let's say you are building an agriculture tech startup in Brazil. Generic business advice about Silicon Valley venture capital trends isn't going to help you navigate local supply chain logistics or South American agricultural regulations.
Right. That would be totally useless.
Exactly. But through their Alumni Directory and mentorship programs, the ecosystem leverages its massive scale to find the one expert in their network who has successfully scaled a supply chain business in South America and connects you directly with them.
Ah, I see the mechanism now.
Yeah.
So the massive scale of the ecosystem is actually what makes the bespoke support possible in the first place.
Bingo.
Because they have such a massive global directory of alumni founders and industry leaders, they statistically have the specific niche expert you need on speed dial.
That's it. Getting an investor or a mentor who has successfully navigated the exact same regulatory hurdles or who has scaled a remarkably similar business model bridges the critical gap.
It connects the dots.
Yeah, it's the bridge between having a powerful raw tool like the cloud credits or Gemini 3.1 Pro and actually achieving a specific market goal.
Which is the whole point.
Yeah, right. We often see founders get access to powerful technology, but without strategy, those tools just create chaos faster. Mentorship provides the vector for the velocity.
Mentorship provides the vector for the velocity. Wow, I think that perfectly captures the dynamic here.
Thanks.
So what actually happens when you combine this heavy-duty tech infrastructure with that hyper-specific expert human mentorship?
Well, according to the source material, you get highly specialized companies solving distinct human problems.
Here's where it gets really interesting. The document lists several specific startup success stories, and looking at how they actually work really crystallizes this entire blueprint.
I agree completely. Examining the specific case studies moves this from abstract theory into practical application. What stands out to you about the companies they chose to highlight?
Let's run through them and look at the mechanics. First, they mention a company called Callyope, which the text notes is building the first AI co-pilot for mental health clinicians. Then there's Moody Month, a startup providing daily well-being tracking for women, specifically tailored to their physiological cycles.
Fascinating.
And the third one is Botco.ai, which prioritizes universal access to on-demand support.
Right.
When you look at how these companies actually function using the Google Cloud and AI tools we just discussed, the pieces of the puzzle just snap together.
This raises an important question for you, the listener, to consider. Look at the pattern across those three distinct startups.
Yeah, what's the common thread?
None of them are generic tech companies building new databases or designing faster microchips or creating alternative search engines.
No, not at all.
They are highly specialized, fundamentally human-centric applications focusing on mental health, women's physiological well-being, and universal accessibility.
And to understand the how, let's look at Callyope building that AI co-pilot for mental health.
Let's do it.
In the past, analyzing hours of sensitive patient-clinician dialogue to detect subtle emotional shifts or track treatment progress.
That's incredibly data-heavy.
Right. It would require a massive, highly secure server farm that a startup simply couldn't afford.
let alone built from scratch.
Exactly. But by utilizing the ecosystem, they can securely process that multi-step workflow on the Google Cloud backend. They use something like Gemini's deep reasoning to ingest the transcript, identify clinical patterns, and automatically summarize the clinical notes without compromising patient data security.
Exactly. The complex automation is happening invisibly in the background.
Yeah.
And consider Moody Month. Tracking physiological cycles requires analyzing massive amounts of deeply personal, highly variable user data to provide personalized daily well-being advice.
Right.
If they had to build the data processing architecture and the security protocols from scratch, they would spend years just laying the digital pipes.
And burn through all their funding doing it.
Exactly. Instead, they leveraged the cloud infrastructure to handle the data securely and apply deep reasoning AI to personalize the insights for each specific user based on complex, intersecting health variables.
And Botco.ai does the exact same thing for universal access.
Yep.
They use the infrastructure to scale on-demand support globally without needing physical human call centers in every single time zone.
Which used to be impossible for a startup.
It absolutely proves the underlying thesis of the entire source document. When a startup founder doesn't have to worry about building cloud infrastructure from scratch,
Yeah.
and when they can plug into advanced deep reasoning models instead of spending years training a basic neural network, their time and capital are completely liberated.
It frees up 100% of their intellectual capital to focus on solving deeply specific, nuanced human problems.
Yeah.
Callyope doesn't have to invent the underlying AI language model. They just have to deeply understand the needs of mental health clinicians, understand the friction points in patient care, and apply the technology to that specific bottleneck.
So what does this all mean? It means the modern startup landscape is less about inventing the wheel and more about applying world-class tech wheels to new, uncharted terrains.
I love that analogy.
You don't have to invent the rubber or figure out the axle anymore. Google is essentially saying, here are the best wheels in the world. Here are the expert mechanics who have driven this route before to show you how to attach them. Now, where do you want to drive?
That is the exact dynamic, and it requires a fundamental shift in mindset from prospective founders.
How so?
Well, historically, the most successful founders were often the most brilliant technical engineers. They won the market because they could build better, faster infrastructure than their competitors.
Right, the garage builders.
Exactly. Today, the infrastructure is increasingly commoditized. It's handed to you through comprehensive programs like the one outlined in this document.
Okay.
Therefore, the founders who win today are the ones with the deepest domain expertise and the clearest understanding of a specific customer's pain points.
If you want to help mental health clinicians, you don't need to be a server architect.
No.
You need to understand psychology, clinician burnout, and patient care workflows, and then use the provided tools to build the solution. It shifts the power dynamic from the pure technologist to the domain experts. The barrier to entry is no longer technical capability or access to raw compute power.
The barrier to entry is now purely the quality of your insight into a human problem and your ability to execute a solution alongside the right mentors. It is a massive democratization of innovation.
Okay, let's bring this all together for you, the listener.
Yeah, let's summarize.
Whether you are prepping to launch your own venture, trying to innovate a new product within a larger legacy company, or just want to stay well-informed about where the global business world is heading, the formula laid out in this Google for Startups document is incredibly clear.
It really is.
You start with robust enterprise-grade tools, leveraging things like Gemini 3.1 Pro for deep reasoning and cloud credits to pause your infrastructural burn rate.
Yep.
You build by seeking out bespoke guidance and targeted matchmaking from alumni networks who have walked that specific path before you.
Crucial step.
And you grow by taking all of that freed up energy and focusing it entirely on solving hyper-specific, nuanced market needs, just like Callyope or Moody Month.
It's a powerful blueprint for scaling a business. But it also leaves us with a fascinating implication for the broader future of the economy.
Ooh, okay. What's that?
Well, if massive tech ecosystems are providing startups with the core infrastructure, the advanced AI reasoning capabilities, and the targeted investor networks right out of the gate.
Which they are.
Right. The traditional barriers to entry are rapidly dissolving. It begs the question, in a world where the technological playing field is completely leveled, will the future of business be entirely determined by who possesses the highest level of empathy, to identify unseen human problems, rather than who possesses the most venture capital.
Wow. When the tools are subsidized and the workshop is open to everyone, the only thing that truly matters is who can design the chair that people actually want to sit in.
Empathy over capital.
Empathy over capital. That is a brilliant thought to leave you with, and something to really mull over as you look at the new businesses emerging around you. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive.
Thanks for listening.
Keep questioning, keep exploring, and we will catch you next time as we unpack another fascinating topic.